Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be ranking the 2019 holiday eyeshadow palettes, at least the pieces that I've seen so far. I am still waiting on Guerlain's holiday collection. I want to check out Givenchy. I think YSL still has a couple pieces coming very soon, but this is everything else that I've already mentioned before on my channel. Dior, Chanel, Tom Ford, Charlotte Tilbury, and Bobbi Brown. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. This is our pink, sparkly, positivity-filled bubble on YouTube where we talk about our love of luxury, beauty, fragrance, and so much more. So if you love seeing new collections, keeping up with the trends, or you just want to sharpen up your makeup skills, go ahead and subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. So let's get started. Now, not all of these palettes are intended to serve the same purpose. So in order to avoid comparing apples with oranges, to be very fair and as clear as possible to help you determine which palette or palettes is best for you in your collection, I will be ranking these in 3 different categories, starting with smoky dramatic eye looks, then moving on to more natural everyday eyeshadow palettes, and then the third category is just my overall ranking, taking absolutely everything into consideration. So let's begin with smoky dramatic. I have 10 palettes here, so I am going to begin with number 10, and that is the Soleil et Lune palette from Tom Ford. This palette is just not very smoky or dramatic, so if that's the type of look that you're hoping to achieve during the holidays, this really wouldn't be a great palette for you. Yes, you do have the beautiful green shade, which is a little bit different, more unique. It's certainly a beautiful pop of color, but I still think that this is going to be best suited for more natural, very wearable daily looks. Could you make this smoky and dramatic? Absolutely, but you would have to incorporate some sort of outside palette or other product with your look. Coming in at number 9, and this might be somewhat surprising, is the Chanel Lumiere et Opulence palette. This palette does have a dark eyeshadow, but overall it's a little bit softer, more sheer washes of color. This is going to be a palette that I personally think is better for more daytime looks. It's a very wearable palette in such a good way. So this is in no way to take away from this palette, but if I'm looking to create something really deep, dark, smoky, and dramatic, this isn't going to be one of the first palettes that I grab. At number 8, I have the Tom Ford Soleil d'Hiver palette. For the same reasoning as the Chanel palette, as much as this is very stunning, you do have a deeper eyeshadow, so you could create smoky looks. It's just going to be best suited for very pretty daytime looks. You could create very beautiful evening looks with this palette as well, but if I'm looking for intense drama, intense impact, this is probably not going to be the first eyeshadow palette that I pull out. These eyeshadows do have a little bit more sparkle and more luminosity, which is why I ranked this slightly higher than the Chanel palette. Number 7 isn't even technically a holiday palette, but I included it on the list because it is a new launch. It's exclusive to the Charlotte Tilbury website, I believe, and this is the Pillow Talk Palette of Pops. I absolutely love this eyeshadow palette. I think it is so much fun. I love it so much more than I even expected to. I did an entire review of this palette, so I will link it down below in case you're curious. I know this is one of those products that really hasn't been on many people's radar, but I think this is a dark horse and it has absolutely become one of my favorites. Number 6 is the Celestial palette of Pops that is part of Charlotte Tilbury's holiday collection. I think this palette would be beautiful for creating evening smoky eyes. The purple gives it a little bit more depth. I think the purple in this palette is a little bit darker and smokier than the brown that comes in the Pillow Talk palette of Pops. I have not picked this up just yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion that I will. Palette number 5 for smoky drama is the Bobbi Brown Luxe Gems. This is another palette that I haven't picked up just yet. The colors are stunning, but when I saw this in person and I swatched it in store, I was not a huge fan of the purple matte satin shade or the purple sparkly shimmer metallic shade. So it's just sort of hard to justify. I think the 3 standout eyeshadows in this palette are the light pale champagne, the pinky gold, which is very similar to the Chantecaille eyeshadow, and there are a couple other brands that have something similar even though it's beautiful, and then that gorgeous blue sparkle eyeshadow is so stunning. I'm not sure I can pay $75 for an eyeshadow palette just for the blue eyeshadow. At number 4, I have the Dior Celebrate in Gold eyeshadow palette. This is the palette that I have on my eyes today. You can easily make this smoky, dramatic. I think these colors are so perfect for pairing with a bold red lip. So that's why this is higher up on the list. Of course, you have the black, so perfect for smoky eyes. These gorgeous metallic shades right here are stunning pops of vibrant shadow on the lid. You can create a lot of beautiful looks with this palette. It's not going to give you pops of color like the Bobbi Brown, but I think this is something that you would probably grab more often to create your party eyeshadow looks. So stunning. I absolutely love playing around with this today, and I love my eyeshadow look. At number 3, I have the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize palette from Charlotte Tilbury. This is a palette that gives you so many options. There's so much versatility. I personally have not picked this up. I don't love a giant palette. I prefer a quad or a quint, but that's just my personal preference. I think if you don't own a ton of palettes, this would be a perfect option for you because you can use those darker eyeshadows in the palette, but then incorporate every other shade. So you have so many different looks, so much variety. I think for the number of eyeshadows you get, the price is really justified. And here I have the top 2 palettes for creating smoky dramatic looks. At number 2, I have the Soleil Neige from Tom Ford. And at number 1, I have the Party in Colors palette from Dior. I think these are sort of interchangeable. This could be number 2, this could be number 1. It really just sort of depends on you as a person. I absolutely love the Soleil Neige palette because it is so different from anything else from Tom Ford. These are the shadows that can be used wet or dry. You have this gorgeous kind of slate charcoal black eyeshadow, then this stunning blue that isn't too much of a vibrant jewel tone blue. It's a very wearable blue. And then you have your medium shade and a light highlight shade. So this is a very complete palette that's going to give you a lot of drama, very elegant, classy smoky eyes with this palette. And then of course there's the Party in Colors palette. This is a top palette for creating drama simply because it is so unique. You have so many different jewel tones. You probably will need to incorporate some other product to create a complete look with this eyeshadow palette, but it doesn't matter. This is something that you're only going to get this time of year from Dior, so it is the perfect kind of festive holiday palette. I think this would be beautiful as a gift for the makeup enthusiast. It's not going to be for everybody. Some people will look at this and absolutely despise it. It's not wearable, it's not daytime, but if you're looking for drama, festive looks, New Year's Eve looks, holiday parties, I think this is so stunning. Moving on to natural everyday eye looks. Coming in at number 10 is probably a little bit obvious. That's the Bobbi Brown Luxe Gems palette. This palette was designed for drama, designed for smoky, tons of shimmer. This palette packs a punch. It's not going to be best suited for creating everyday eye looks. Coming in at number 9 is the Charlotte Tilbury Celestial palette of pops for the same reason as the Bobbi Brown palette. This is an evening eyeshadow palette. This is a special occasion eyeshadow palette. It is not something that you're really going to be able to pull out on an everyday basis. Same as dramatic smoky eyes. Could you create an everyday look using all of these eyeshadow palettes? Absolutely. You could put just a little bit of that pink or a little bit of that gold right on the lid and do absolutely nothing else. And that could be a very pretty, kind of soft, wearable daily look. Is that going to be the best way to use that palette? No, it is intended for drama and fun and festive eye looks. No surprises here. Coming in at number 8 is the Pillow Talk palette of pops from Charlotte Tilbury. I've been able to create some daytime looks. I've worn it to work several times, but again, I work in cosmetics. So for me, wearing sparkle all over my eyelid every single day isn't that outrageous. Is this going to be the perfect palette for creating elegant daytime looks? No, absolutely not. Every single eyeshadow in the palette is a pop shade. At number 7, I put the Tom Ford Soleil Neige palette. If you wanted to create the perfect daytime look, you could use that taupe eyeshadow all over the lid and maybe pop a little bit of the white eyeshadow on the inner corner. Something very simple, very basic. It's not going to be the perfect everyday palette because you really don't have a lot of options. However, it can be done. At number 6, I had listed the Dior Party in Colors palette. I think that might be a mistake. I would probably swap this one and the Tom Ford Soleil Neige. Can you create daytime wearable looks You could, if you just kind of dabbled a little bit in the gold or the silver, maybe the pink shade, just a teeny tiny bit. None of the palettes I've named so far I would recommend if you're looking for something that's more natural, daytime appropriate. Now that we've reached number 5, we're headed towards the safe zone. So at number 5, I have the Celebrate in Gold eyeshadow palette from Dior. I think this is best for evening, smoky drama, but I think you could absolutely create daytime looks. This could be your everyday palette. As long as you don't mind a little luminosity in your eyeshadows, this would be perfect for you. If you're somebody who prefers all matte shadows during the day, this isn't going to cut it. At number 4, I have the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize palette from Charlotte Tilbury. You have so many options with this palette. You can easily create beautiful daytime looks. At number 3, I have the Tom Ford Soleil et Lune palette. Yes, you do have that pop of green, but it's still a light, wearable green. And all of the shades in this palette are very soft. They're slightly luminous, but they're not overly metallic and glittery. I think this is really going to be best suited for creating daytime looks. The top 2 holiday eyeshadow palettes for creating natural, everyday looks are somewhat interchangeable. Here I have the Chanel Lumiere et Opulence palette and the Tom Ford Soleil d'Hiver palette. They're not overly metallic, overly sparkly. They're very beautiful. So starting here with the Chanel, of course you do have this dark shade right here, but this could be beautiful as an eyeliner or a shade to give just a hint of depth and dimension in the outer corner. It's so classic, very wearable. They did a beautiful job with this palette. If you're going to pick up one palette for every day, that could be top of your list. And then here, the Soleil d'Hiver palette. These eyeshadows are just so beautiful. I think you might look at this and think you already have so many palettes that are similar. I think you can create a lot of stunning daily looks with this. As far as the overall ranking is concerned, I took absolutely everything into consideration. The price of the palette, the size, how unique the shades are, how versatile it is, what I think stands out among the holiday collections for 2019, and what I already own in my makeup collection. There is not one bad eyeshadow palette on this list, so it's really going to be up to you to decide what speaks to you, what is a palette that you would love to wear and use. Not just a palette that looks really pretty and is sort of fun and festive, but think about your collection and what you will get the most use out of. That's where your money is best spent. I have a 3-way tie for number 1. Coming in at the bottom of the list at number 8 is the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize palette from Charlotte Tilbury. And it pains me to say this, and I think it is a beautiful palette, but for the size and the number of palettes that I personally own, I'm not sure where this really fits in with my collection. I think it's even better than the palette they came out with last year. I love the packaging. I think for the beauty enthusiast, somebody who's maybe just getting into makeup, this is perfect. At number 7, I have the Tom Ford Soleil et Lune palette. And this may surprise you guys. It's only because I don't think this is something that I would get a lot of wear out of. The quality is beautiful, packaging amazing. If you don't already own something like this and these colors really speak to you and are flattering for your eye color, this is going to be an incredible palette to own. At number 6, I have the Bobbi Brown Luxe Gems palette, only because I didn't personally love the way the 2 purple eyeshadows performed. Other than that, you can create so many beautiful looks. I am so devastated that they aren't selling that blue metallic eyeshadow by itself, because that would be a no-brainer for me. At number 5, I have the Celestial palette of Pops from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is a palette that I plan to pick up, so we're already getting to that must-have palette part of the list. It is just so beautiful. Do I think it's incredibly wearable? Will I use it every day? Absolutely not. It's way too sparkly, but it's so much fun. The number 4 best holiday eyeshadow palette of the season is the Celebrate in Gold palette from Dior. Again, it's the palette that I have on my eyes today. I absolutely love playing around with this. This is the type of palette that gives you an entire look with just one product. It's something that I plan to take with me on any trips that I have coming up, and I will probably use this even more than I suspect. The 3rd best eyeshadow palette of the holidays this year is the Party in Colors palette. It is so unique, so different from anything else that I own, and I've really been attracted to colorful palettes. I don't love the huge palettes that a lot of brands come out with, so I've kind of felt left out lately. I don't want to invest my money in a huge palette, but I still want to play with color from time to time, so this just is right up my alley. The number 2 palette for the holidays is the Soleil d'Hiver palette from Tom Ford. This palette is a no-brainer. It's going to give you pretty makeup looks every single time. You can almost instinctually look at this palette and know where to apply these eyeshadows. Last but certainly not least, we have our 3-way tie. So these are in no particular order. All of them are incredible. First, I'm going to begin by talking about the Soleil Neige palette from Tom Ford. I love this palette. It was the first palette when I saw their holiday collection that I said, that palette is a standout. I think this is perfect for creating elegant evening looks. Those elevated, beautiful, gala, night out, holiday party looks. You could absolutely wear this for New Year's Eve. Next, I have the holiday palette that isn't really a holiday palette. This is the Pillow Talk palette of Pops. I've been so blown away by this palette. Every time I wear these colors, I feel so pretty. I love my makeup whenever I'm wearing these eyeshadows, and I don't always feel that way. I've had a lot of success using a brush, using my fingers. I know it's all sparkle, so it's a very particular look. It's a very Charlotte Tilbury makeup look. It's not going to be for everybody, but I cannot tell you how many times I've grabbed for this palette and have never regretted it. Our 3-way tie for first place concludes with the Chanel eyeshadow quad, the Lumiere et Opulence palette. It's just very elegant. This is a beautiful eyeshadow quad that has the gorgeous design embossed on top. It ties into the heritage of Chanel. Everything that they do is so well thought out. The packaging, the colors, and because I've been trying so much makeup, I truly haven't even had the chance to play around with this palette as much as I want to, but I have a feeling that once I do, I'm not gonna put it down. I just love everything about this palette and the fact that they do put so much thought into it and there's a story and inspiration behind it. That's what makes me love the brand, and that's what makes me love this piece. And that completes today's holiday eyeshadow palette ranking video. This was tough to put together. There are so many great products. The holidays are truly like the Super Bowl of makeup. It's when all of the brands just come for our wallets and they release the most beautiful makeup of the entire year. So you have to pace yourself. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but hopefully by now you feel a little bit more comfortable and more informed about some of these products. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave me any comments or questions down below. I love hearing from you guys, so be sure to drop me a comment. Let me know what you purchased, what you're interested in, your thoughts about these pieces. As always, I will be linking everything mentioned, everything that I used today on my face down below in the description box for your convenience. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.